Hello and welcome to The Big Story, where we discuss the hottest topics of the day right in the heart of the newsroom. I'm Haryanto, coming to you live from the Straits Times. Now, we are streaming on Facebook and on YouTube, so be sure to comment, share and like the video. While you are at it, click the bell to be alerted of our videos. Now, I will have my newsroom colleagues joining me in this show to talk about the stories that got you talking today. Now, first up, the job market doesn't look good, especially in the first quarter of the year. According to the Ministry of Manpower's latest labour market report for that period, retrenchments rose as the manufacturing sector shed staff, while job vacancies also dropped for the first time in 2 years. Economists now believe this marks a turn in the employment cycle, while with the labour market turning soft. Now, jobs may be harder to find and hold on to in the months ahead. To tell us more, I have business correspondent Xiao Bei with me. Welcome, Bei. Now, Bei, could you quickly summarize, the main findings of the report? Which sector is affected the most and which sector is relatively still safe?
So, according to the report, which is about jobs in Singapore, the manufacturing sector has taken a hit, and in particular, I think jobs from the production and electronics side, they are, among those that drove this increase in retrenchments that we saw. Overall, there was also a dip in job vacancies, and we also saw that PMETs, including professionals, executives, they were the ones who contributed about 70% of this, who made up about 70% of these retrenchments. As to which sectors are safer, from what we understand, the ICT, Info Communications and Technology sector is one of the areas of growth, and so is healthcare, and so are like professional services.
And of course, what are some of the reasons that have been cited, for this economic slowdown? And of course, the question is, should we be worried?
Well, there are a mix of factors behind this slowing economic growth that we see. So one of that is the globally, there's slowing demand for electronics, and coupled with that is China's economic growth. That is also slowing down. And to top things off, the US-China trade war has been escalating in the recent months. So that really has sort of dampened sentiment.
Bei, it's interesting that you actually brought up the US-China trade war. And really, sometimes we wonder, external events like this, they may or may not contribute to the slowdown. How do external events like that affect things in Singapore?
So events like the trade war in particular, it affects our trade flows and it affects business sentiment, which means whether or not people are actually going to make investments. So for example, if there were a vicious like tit for tat kind of response when the US raises tariffs on China exports, China does the same. I mean, that can really hit business and consumer confidence. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and businesses might then hold back on expansion, hold back on their investment plans, and consumers might also not be spending as much. For Singapore, we're a small open economy, right? So we have companies that supply goods to China, but say if China couldn't use these goods to make final products and ship them off to the US, then our supply chains are kind of that would affect the supply chains that go through Singapore. So overall, this is how the economy could be
works,
affected.
right? Could be affected. Now, you've also spoken to a few economists with regard to this situation right now, and of course, financial experts as well. And they've given their forecasts. What is their forecast for the coming months? Does it look bleak? Are we good to go? What have they said?
Well, for the job markets, they believe that this is the start of what they call a softening in the labour market. So jobs are likely to be harder to find and harder to hold on to. And for the rest of this year, growth is expected to be slower than before. But on the other hand, we're not expecting a contraction in the economy. There's still growth, it's just not as fast. So for now, slower growth we will expect in the coming months, but economists also expect that things will look up in the later part of the year. So particularly if there were a trade deal between the US and China, so towards the end of the year, if that were the case and there were no further downside risks, as they call it, then things will likely start looking better from then.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, things are still up in the air. A lot of things can still change, especially with regard to external events and how, like you mentioned earlier, external events like the US-China trade war, they do affect the situation here in Singapore as well. Once again, thank you so much, Bei, for coming onto the show to talk more about the latest labour report, the labour market report. Now, of course, for the full report on it, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Now, moving on to our second segment, safety precautions and regulations on ongoing works should be in place to avoid tragedies from happening. Now, every opening where a person could fall more than 2 meters should be covered or guarded by guardrails or barriers on all sides when works are not ongoing. If it's not feasible, there should be a travel restraint system or a fall arrest system in place to prevent people from falling through. Now, the issue of safety at heights has surfaced after Mr. Sean Tung, a security guard at one altitude, died while trying to keep 2 people away from an area cordoned off for cleaning works on the exterior of the building. The Straits Times is following closely this story. Now, investigations by the Ministry of Manpower and police are ongoing. Now, to give an update, I have with me right here To Ting Wei. Welcome, Ting Wei. Now, Ting Wei, you've spoken to the parties involved, like the building owner and cleaning contractors. What have they said so far?
So to give a rundown, the few parties involved in this case, basically mainly the authorities, the police and manpower ministry, who are both currently investigating the case. And then after that, there's the one altitude bar, there's the building owner OUE center, and there's also the 2 cleaning contractors involved. So with what one altitude and what OUE center has said, they have declined to comment on exactly why the 4-meter deep pit was there, but they have expressed their condolences, and they have also just said that the area was cordoned off for cleaning works to be done on the exterior of the building. So that's what we all know so far from them and nothing else. With the 2 cleaning contractors, A&P Maintenance Services and the subcontractor, Clear Vision Cleaning Solutions, both of them have not responded to requests for comments. A&P has been trying to direct me to someone who apparently has not been in office for the past couple of days. And for the other contractor, they have not even picked up the phone. So this is where we stand at the moment in terms of...
And Ting, take us through again, right? What are the rules and regulations, for works which involve safety hazards like this?
So I think, as you mentioned just now, for any, opening where someone can fall more than 2 meters, it needs to be covered or guarded on all sides. So beyond the regulations, there's also recommended guidelines, such as them having to put out signages either on the cover of these openings or near the cover to warn people of these hazards. So there's that. But on the company side, I've been talking to security companies, cleaning companies, to find out about their SOP. So let's say with cleaning companies, they can't identify why the pit was there for, but they say if something like this was involved in the works, they will be informing occupants in the buildings of these potential risks. They will be putting out more barriers and more signages to at least make sure that people know. And for the security company, this person told me that they would have done briefings beforehand with other maintenance staff, building owners, to talk about what are the potential hazards, and they have to make sure that this message is disseminated amongst all the security guards.
Right, and of course everybody's informed basically, right? That's
correct.
the list. Now, an eyewitness, Miss Juliet, going by the name of just Miss Juliet, has also shared an account of what happened that night. What did she say? I believe you spoke to her as well.
So I met Miss Juliet with the family yesterday. She wanted to speak up because she saw the accident and she was quite sad about it, and she wanted to see if she could help the family with more info. So she was at the bar with 4 of her friends. So they went there around midnight, and after about 1 hour in at 1 a.m, she saw these 2 people, this 1 man and 1 woman, walking from the other side of the barricaded zone in their direction, but they were quite far away. And after that, she saw Mr. Teng and his colleague going past the barriers on their side to approach the 2 people to try to stop them. So according to what Miss Juliet saw, the barriers were comprised of a retractable barrier, the kind you see in banks when you are queuing, like those that you can pull in and pull out. And then after that, there were tables and chairs also. So there were barriers, but she didn't notice the 2 one altitude workers having any difficulty going past them. So as they were, I think she recalled that they were jogging a bit towards the two other people.
Yep.
And so they were jogging and suddenly one of them just fell into a pit. And she said she didn't see the pit before the accident happened because it was quite dark there, so she was quite surprised when he fell.
Right. And interestingly, of course, I think where you mentioned earlier on that you also met the family members as well. Can you tell us, how is the family coping? And you mentioned to me earlier on as well, before we came onto the show, that they shared very fond memories of the victim. More on that?
Yeah, so I mean, it's obviously a very tragic accident. So even for me, just talking to the family alone, I already felt like my heart already felt them pain already. So for them, I really can't imagine the pain that they are going through. They are being quite strong, but I guess in a way they are also a bit confused and looking for answers, because according to them, nobody has really reached out to them yet, and they are still wondering like why their son died, like why was there no precautions, what was the circumstances surrounding it. So in terms of what they say about their son and the sister about her brother, they really he was really a very hardworking guy. Because I mean, you hear about people holding one part-time job, two part-time job, or doing night classes. So for Sean, he did a night class at Republic Poly studying for sports coaching, and then he held 3 other part-time jobs. So the one altitude security guard job was one of them. So he went there maybe like once or twice a month when he had the time. So why was he working so hard was to kind of like, because he had quite a few commitments. So he had a 2-year-old child and a wife in the Philippines. So he has been sending money to them and also like paying for their flights to Singapore and paying for his own flight to visit them on special occasions.
And talking about money, you mentioned something about the mom shared with you.
Oh yeah, so the night where Sean was cremated, I went to, they were kind enough to invite me to visit their house. So after that, while we were talking, the mom took out this petty cash box. So inside there were stacks of cash, like stacks of $50 with labels on it, like for travel expenses, school expenses, or even something like leisure. So what the mother told me was that for every month when he receives his pay, he'll go and withdraw the money, and we'll start dividing them into like small portions to give to like for whatever use that he wanted to use for. And sometimes because I mean he's paying for his studies, paying for his family, but sometimes he's managed to save some like extra money. He will try to give it to his mother to ask his mother to use it for public transport and stuff. So
All right. Thank you, Tingwei, for coming onto the show, to just give us an update, and of course, certainly a first-hand experience, speaking to the parents, to the family members, and of course, all the stories that we've heard about the victim as well. Now, of course, on our comments section, we do see people expressing condolences and to the family as well. Now, the story is still developing, and as mentioned earlier, investigations are still ongoing by MOM and the police. Now, for more updates, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com, and on that, of course, our thoughts and prayers, certainly deepest condolences to the family. And that is all we have for you for our top stories of the day. Once again, I'm Haryanto, and certainly for more stories, you can visit our website at www.straitstimes.com. Join us again on Monday, same time, for more stories on The Big Story.